The other day, I was at a drag karaoke Broadway sing-along brunch, which is awesome in and of itself, but I was sitting close to where the performer was, and in between songs, they did some banter, including asking me where I was from, and if I lived here. I said, oh, yeah, more or less. And of course, rightly, I got sassed for this, and it was good fun. But the truth of it is, I never know how to answer that question, so I'm going to try to flesh it out today. Basically, I live lots of places, and I know that's not super satisfying. For a lot of people, say, where are you from? Oh, I'm from here. Where do you live? I live here. And that's about it. For me, I've lived in over 50 places in my life, and I mean like paid rent, like actually stayed in a place for a chunk of time. Not counting travel, staying with friends, short-term experiences. This is like actually lived in these places. So I'm definitely nomadic even when I'm stationary, or at the very least peripatetic. So I move a ton. But if I had to break it down, I would say I spend a chunk of each year traveling to perform. So some years that's fringe festivals, other years that's traditional circuses, going into a town, lifting the tent, performing, dropping the tent, heading to the next one. At other times, it might be, flying around for a theater show or something of that nature. But that's only one chunk of the year, and typically that doesn't pay enough bills for the year. Traditional circus is wonderful on so many fronts, but people don't get into it to get rich, and they shouldn't. But there is a different angle of performance that does pay a few more of the bills, at least on an hourly basis. It works out a bit better, and that is entertainer for hire type of work. This is event entertainment, so that could be a street fair, a music festival, a birthday party, a corporate soiree, team building events, could be teaching workshops or performance. I do both. I enjoy both. I love teaching and have taught for a long time, so a chunk of each year ends up being teaching, but I'm specifically talking about being a performer for hire right now, and that's, for me, usually in the Bay Area. So about 2 months each year ends up being in and around San Francisco or Oakland or Berkeley, in that realm of California. The reason for that is, well, I lived there for about a decade, and a lot of my professional contacts are there. A lot of the work I was doing to pay, very high California rents was those corporate parties. People would say, oh, hey, we need a stilt walker who can wear a mask. Great, got it. Oh, we need a magician who can do comedy. Sure thing. We need a juggler who can also roast the CEO. You bet. We need a mime who's actually funny, and yeah, got this. So this type of work where someone has a character in mind or a skill in mind, or just says, I don't know, we need something special so that our party stands out. Well, I might get called either directly or through booking agencies, and that ends up paying more of my bills than other projects, I would say. But it's very draining. It's very specific. You're inventing a new performance for each show, for each event. You're tailoring it very specifically to the needs of the client, the needs of the day, the holiday, special costuming, special props. There's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes. So it actually works out to be, about the same as other performance. But, it's worth it. I will also do about a month each year of teaching in the Bay Area at the Nueva School, where I've taught for well over a decade now, both in their school year and now mostly in summer camps. So I just finished up a round of doing summer camp remotely. These past 2 years have been teaching online, and then assumedly next year it'll go back to in-person. But there I teach movement and theater these days. I've taught circus, history, storytelling, comic books, mask making, all kinds of fun stuff. It is a delight to work with them. So I've got about half my year covered with touring or Bay Area related gig work. I then need a recuperation time, and I also love just learning. So I will go over to Indonesia for about 3 months a year and mostly center that around the island of Bali. I initially started going because of their deep traditions of mask making and mask performance. I have a mentor there who I work with. We'll just basically hang out for days on end, drinking coffee, carving masks, taking a big log and turning it into a character. And it is fabulous. I've been going there long enough that I also have an extensive community of Indonesian friends. I work on the language. I, love the food. I love traveling around, seeing new parts of it, learning about history. I also end up running into a lot of friends from around the world who go there because it is a big tourist destination as well. So a big chunk of that time is just being in my second home. I don't even always know where my first home is, but I do know my second home is Indonesia, at least has been for the last many years. So that's a delight. And my remaining few months end up being flex time. It might be road tripping, it might be an extra, gig here or there, or it might be learning. Like a couple years ago, I spent an entire month just ice skating. Just would go as many times a week as I could. Went to this fabulous ice skating center down in Florida, and it was a treat. I would, ice skate during the day. A couple days a week, I'd go do some flying trapeze at night at a fun school down there, and it was fabulous. So I have these moments where I get freedom to just grow as an artist, a performer, follow passions that aren't necessarily directly related to the next show I'm gonna do, but sometimes they turn into it. I've been able to do ice skating gigs and trapeze gigs because I'm a jack of all trades. So when someone says, hey, we want an ice skating Santa, sure, I could do that, why not? And end up having a blast with it. So being able to travel around year round, but have these bases, these stations I'm at, allows me to really balance out my life in a way that works for me. I have, a spot in LA where I stay with one of my best friends. I keep a couple costumes and some props down there just in case. I have family in the Bay Area who, I keep some things there and I get to go spend time with them. I get to go, help my parents with projects. As they get older, it's lovely to spend extra time with them, doing fun stuff. They're retired. They get to travel around in RVs and, go down to Mexico or go to Hawaii or whatever. But when they're in California, I'll go just build a garden, help them with their fence, do some landscaping, hang out with the dog. And that's a treat too. And then right now I'm in North Carolina where I have a place with my partner. She works here year round. So while we are typically long distance, sometimes she'll come out and see me if I'm performing somewhere or in a spot longer term. But when I can, I like to be out here. So we get time together as well. And it's also fantastic just to be in one spot for a bit, to be able to grow a garden where I can actually watch the basil and tomatoes and peppers mature, and I can, pluck spices and produce for the next meal. I love cooking, so that's something that is harder to do on the road, at least in a consistent way. And also, it's just nice to have a bookshelf, to be able to curl up on a couch, watch a movie. I like all these things too. So being nomadic doesn't mean giving up home. It just means having a very different approach of how it all fits together. And it does take work to fit it all together, but it's, in my experience, really, really worth it. So the next phase for me is going to be how to sort of streamline this dispersion of multiple homes, multiple places I go in a year, and focus for the next 2 years on being just in Switzerland, working on this master's program there. During the breaks, I will be doing a little traveling and a little bit of logistical work. Like I'll have to come back here at one point and pack up this house, move it into storage out in California. So it's not always going to be easy, but the weirdest part about it is going to be just being in one place for a year and a half, 2 years. That's pretty foreign to me. Not just it being a foreign country, but just staying still. So hopefully it'll all work out. I'm sure the program will offer enough excitement, interest, and connections that my brain and body will be engaged. My passions will be being fueled by the material that I'm both learning about and creating. So I think that'll balance out, but it is always a trade-off. Anywho, I get to cross the country one more time in a few days here. I'm gonna be seeing some friends, visiting a couple circus sites on the way. I'm not doing any circus work on the travel, but definitely expect some check-ins from cool things. And if I see a cool roadside attraction, I'll go check that out. But there'll be some fun videos planned for that, so keep your eyes peeled. Beyond that, yeah, just enjoying my last few days here, heading out to take care of business, then I'll come back here for final Swiss prep. Yeah, and get one last harvest out of the garden before I go. But now I'm gonna head inside, cook up a nice meal, plan the rest of my day, and yeah, wish you well till next time. If you're home, enjoy it. If you're on the road, enjoy it. And most of all, take care of yourselves and each other. Be well.